BZ and Skarsnik in this advancing onto the brackets. Now, Chauncer has put in quite a lot of work into this category recently. Chaucer's been really bringing his time down. Skarsnik, however, I was actually pretty close to him in my own match, even though he has a pretty good PB. In fact, both of these runners have PBs within a minute of each other. Skarsnik's being 133.06 and Chauncer 133.53. He hasn't put in as much work into this category as Chauncer has recently. Skarsnik PB being pretty old overall. So it'll be interesting to see if Chauncer be able to, outpace Skarsnik here, or to see if Skarsnik's all the way back up to form. We're going to get a chance to see that today. Well, it looks like our runners are off. Just need to catch up a quick moment here. Well, it doesn't seem like our runners are any really separate at a minute into the run, of course. Escape doesn't have a whole lot to do for our runners that they can do to save time. Biggest thing that our runners can do early on is to focus on having more efficient movement. So one thing that a lot of our runners, in this tournament are going to be looking and focusing on doing to save some time is to line up Link and to have him correctly aligned for every obstacle that he's trying to pass. So doors you want to go through without nudging the corners. When you're moving in cardinal directions, you're not changing your direction often. Later on, we'll see a lot of this kind of come together again when we get the boots. It's going to have an impact on the way that we move in general and the pathing we take. But for now, we can just rely on some smaller movement tech to not waste any frames wherever we can help it. But at the moment, about 2 minutes into this race, our runners are completely synced up. This is nice. Here in the first blue guard room, we're going to try and kill that guard as close to the door as possible so we don't have to walk extra distance to get the key. A spin slash will do that. And from here, we're going to try to avoid every enemy we can except for the first green guard in the next room. Once we get to the next room, we have to kill that guard to open up the door. So we're going to try to do that with a spin slash in most players' scenarios. We'll also have a blue guard in the room after this. We're going to try and take advantage of the immediate pickup of a boomerang to save a menu here. Chauncer doing a great job of pulling the key through the door. You have a little bit of leeway there, but if you pull the key a little bit too late, then it may actually not register until you go back through the door again. All right, our runners are heading up on the namesake of our group, the ball and chain guard. There's a couple different ways you can deal with it. Most runners will do 8 slashes, as you'll see Chauncer doing now. Skarsnik doing the slightly slower strategy of throwing a pod and then doing 4 slashes. It looks like Chauncer was having some difficulty, so Skarsnik actually took a bit of a gain of time, or he is a little bit ahead of Chauncer because of how he killed the ball and chain guard. Interesting that the slower strategy actually worked out faster. Oh, Chad also pointing out that Skarsnik started the Wiki. I didn't know that. But he has been in the community a very long time. So for those of you out there who just started following this game recently, I highly recommend you check out Skarsnik and any material he's made in the past. While he hasn't been as active in the last, year or two. Really interesting to see what the people in the community have produced. I know I've definitely looked at that Wiki a few times. Well, 4 minutes in, we have Zelda in tow, and our racers are still perfectly aligned. This is good for Skarsnik, I would suppose. He's not, I guess, as in practice as Chaucer's been recently. I mean, I came pretty close to Skarsnik in a race, so I think Chauncer should have the recency of the muscle memory to work in his advantage here. Just want to remind you guys, their PBs are within a minute of each other. Chaucer's being much more recent. And yeah, it'd be exciting to see if Skarsnik can keep up with him. Well, the snake RNG somewhat friendly. Chaucer ended up going south of the line of them, thinking that he would have a better path through there. Skarsnik happened to have a little bit more of a friendly RNG with those snakes. All in all, though, nothing too bad so far. We talked a little bit before about pumping being an important movement technique. You're going to see them use this in the water. So what our runners are trying to do is they're trying to reset Link's movement speed to a faster movement per frame. So normally when you're moving north-west in cardinal directions, Link's walking animation will start 2 frames at a time per frame, or 2 pixels per frame. If you're moving right or south, Link's walk animation starts with 1 pixel per frame. It alternates between 1 and 2, so the only way to maximize that is to kind of mash one direction while you're heading up or left. So if you're moving left, you want to mash up or down. If you're moving up, mash left or right. Pumping is very useful throughout the game to save just a couple of frames. And some screens, it will save you, like for example, the Eastern Palace screen, save you about 3 or 4 seconds total, maybe 10 over the course of an hour-and-a-half run. Not exactly a gigantic time save, but sometimes you can prevent or do early cycles. For example, there's a blue guard we might be able to dodge coming up at Eastern Palace. Well, both of our runners have opted to pick up the Sanctuary Heart. Very useful safety. Saves you about 3 seconds to skip it, so if you're not familiar or not, if this game doesn't feel friendly to you in terms of deaths, definitely recommend picking it up every time. We'll get to see some kind of finer-tuned movement tech as we cross the bridge and head towards Eastern Palace. Our runners really want to avoid bumping into things unnecessarily here. Not exactly a gigantic time loss to do so, but without the boots, there's not much time we can make up either. One thing to remember as our runners are getting closer to Eastern Palace is that we want to generally avoid killing as many enemies as possible. Sword slashes are typically slower than, say, using the boomerang. And not only that, but this Armos Knight that Chaucer just passed, you want to boomerang it, actually, because you can prevent some of the lag from having that Armos Knight on screen. Looks like Skarsnik is just a screen or about half a screen ahead of Chaucer. Our runners still very close together. We have an instance of RNG here where our runners have to dodge these balls. Looks like Chaucer just had a little bit less fortunate luck than Skarsnik. They're still very close together. Next room that our runner is going to come across is the Stalfos room. Normally there would be 4 Stalfos skeletons that would spawn in this room. By throwing pots in very special places and by walking to a specific place on the floor, we can prevent 2 of them from spawning. It's based on where Link's position is on the screen, so one of them we can we can force one of them to spawn off screen, so it doesn't at all, and the other one will spawn under a pot. By throwing the other 2 pots, we can hit it before they're even there, and it's a very fast room. As the runners head back towards the big key room to do the damage skip, once they've gotten through this dark room, get their key, our runners are going to keep a close eye on their health because they're going to need at least a heart and a half in order to do this skip. What our runners are going to do is they're going to bump into a Popo enemy, which only does half a heart of damage. They're going to pick up a pot underneath the anti-fairies in this room, and when their iframes expire, they'll be standing on the switch, which will activate the big key without having to kill every enemy in the room. Both Chauncer and Skarsnik pulling it off flawlessly, actually, and so as a result, they're both going to have at least 2 hearts walking into the back half of the dungeon. This is a much safer position to be in. I actually had Golf in the chat asking about Armos strategies. If you accidentally kill the wrong Armos, you probably shot a 6th arrow. And if that's the case, then you may have been mashing the arrow or the item button a little bit too fast. You don't want to mash arrows because you can only have one on screen at a time. And you can actually have the game eat your inputs if you're trying to mash too fast. Hopefully that doesn't happen to either of our runners here, though. They're moving to the back half. There's only 1 or 2 screens where they have to kill things. Here in the Zelda gamer room that Skarsnik's at, you get some pretty unfortunate RNG with the cannonballs, but manages to get around it, getting through the room a little faster than chauncer did. Despite there being some separation, they're both walking into the fight at the same time, pretty much. Yeah, so in this fight, it's really good to be as close to the enemy as possible when you start basically spamming the arrow button, because you can only have one on screen at a time. It's imperative. But chauncer actually had to use a couple of extra arrows. He had a little bit of a misstep with his fight against Armos Knights, but he recovered perfectly fine. It just takes a little bit more time, and he'll have a couple less. He'll have 1 less arrow. Both of our runners finishing up with Armos Knights just after 11 minutes. This is a pretty decent split overall. They're doing pretty well as far as, their time in the first 2 splits goes. Chauncer here usually does the tree rupee route. I'm pretty sure Skarsnik will do the exact same. So you won't see these runners bonk open the hole in the back. Actually, Skarsnik will. Okay, so Skarsnik's going to go after the Sahaza the rupees back here. This is a safety strat for the most part. It only costs maybe 6 or 7 seconds longer than taking tree rupees. But now he doesn't have to worry about getting into Palace of Darkness with Kiki, because he will have those 100 rupees there. Already has 7. Just needs 3 more, and he can get the rest in, well, Hyrule Castle if he really has to, but he's got plenty of time. This does give Chauncer a bit of a lead, though. If he does the tree rupee route well, he should be a little bit ahead. Also, I'm in chat asking about the Armos fight. You may want to try to strafe a little bit left and right, because, yeah, like Hiei was mentioning, those Armos Knights do kind of move in a circle, so you can kind of miss one of them by, say, being a little too far left or a little too far right. Also, I noticed that Chauncer and Skarsnik both had to skip this spin speed. It's not a very large time save to get it against the first ladder that you can get in that screen. And if you try it more than once, you probably wasted more time than you would have saved. So it's important to get it once if you're going to try it, but if not, don't bother. Chauncer gets it on the way back from the library. Well, so for the moment, Chauncer here having to do rupee route puts him pretty close to exactly on pace with Skarsnik right now. Like I mentioned before, we're talking maybe 6 or 7 second difference. It's not much. And yep, chat pointing out that that spin speed is very useful for avoiding what we like to call Usain Bolt, the fastest guard in Hyrule. Using that spin speed later on after the desert section, or after we get the flute later on, is imperative, because there's a very fast guard who we're gonna have a lot of trouble getting around otherwise. Saw a really nice pause buffer out of Chauncer there. He needed to change direction anyway, so he did a dash after switching over to the book. Very handy technique that we're hopefully gonna see a lot more out of these runners, because if you're gonna already do an item change, then you might as well use a pause buffer to have better movement. We get a pretty nice poke dash out of Chauncer. Looks like Skarsnik's going to attempt the same thing here. Excellent. very nice of the game, or I guess Nintendo, to design this game where you just have a lot of opportunity to use those dash boots immediately after you get them. This dungeon is a collectathon. It doesn't take long, but you gotta do a fair amount of backtracking. We have chauncer getting his first opportunity at Cannonball RNG since Eastern Palace. We have a lot of cannonballs early in the game. Gets trolled twice on that, and Skarsnik also having to adjust his path. If he walks to the sand and then dashes, he shouldn't have any issues, and he got pretty much as soon as he could on the way back. Chauncer picking up some arrows along the way towards the back half of Desert Palace. There's definitely a smart arrow pickup to get. For the Lammolis fight, you have to do at least 4 arrows to kill each one. You can also use sword slashes to kind of, narrow that down a bit, but the more arrows you have for that fight, the better. I notice they're also picking some up in the Circle of Pots room here in Desert Palace. There are 5 more arrows that they could pick up at the minimum on the way to Lammolis, but our runners are probably not going to go out of their way with 26 and 27 respectively. We don't see an attempt at that desert spin speed out of chauncer. I don't blame them. It's very risky to do. When you're in the spin speed, or I guess super speed state, touching a ledge of any sort will automatically make you hop over it. So that desert one, you'd have to remove the statues with the book just to get back in. Very costly place to accidentally short hop. Well, our runners have had a pretty good Desert Palace so far. I haven't seen any major mistakes out of either of them. Chauncer's going to be the first one into Lammolis, of course, because he is ahead doing the Tree Rupee route. Skarsnik's not far behind him, so this is the most RNG boss of the game, by far. Very annoying to fight. You get different opinions from people about which one they hate the most, but this one's usually at the top of most people's lists. So as I said before, we need 4 arrows to kill each Lammolis, or the equivalent sword slashes. The first spawn location of the boss is predetermined, which direction they fly is not. And the locations and flight paths and lengths of flight paths are different for each one independently. Chauncer has made it through 1 of them. If you can get a 3 or 4 cycle in this fight, that's fantastic, but realistically speaking, our runners just don't want an 8 or 9 cycle. Chauncer doing a pretty good job overall, and Skarsnik not far behind him. He's almost done with his. Wow, and that brings our race even tighter than it was before. Looks like they're about 6 or 7 seconds apart. There are, of course, other ways that you can finish off Lammolis. Some people like to do Bomb-molis, where you just put down a couple of bombs and get some early damage. Tons of strategies out there. Definitely recommend you look around if you're trying to figure out how to get better at that fight, because one way is not necessarily the only way. We've got some shout-outs to Skarsnik in chat. Looks like you got the wind at your sails, buddy. You got this. Next thing our runner is going to be doing is going to be doing a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch called the Fake Flippers. They're going to use this bush to line it up, but what our runners need to do is they need to jump into water and then screen transition on the very next frame. There's a small window where you can put an input in. Now, the game doesn't understand what to do with Link when he screen transitions like that, because he doesn't have the flippers. But the game's also like, well, there's no way you could have done the screen transition without him, so I guess you have them. And with that, you're just able to do it. Interestingly enough, we have Skarsnik here, not too far behind chauncer. They both pulled off the fake flippers in 1 attempt and had absolutely no issues with it. If they were to take damage in the fake flipper state, though, that would actually soft lock the game. Our runners in a tournament race here would be forced to save and quit, which you normally can't do in this category. They would have to spawn back at Link's house and then simply proceed from there. In the elimination bracket, when we get to that point, they will have to return to the bush that they were set up. They were trying to set up the fake flippers glitch with in order to proceed. That's a bit of the time loss. So it's possible that some runners may opt for the West Side Breeze strategy, the way around the castle, in order to get up to the mountain. as they progress further into the tournament, but our runners had no problems pulling it off today. They may just continue to do so for the rest of the tournament. Getting a couple more good opportunities to spin speed here in the mountain. Chauncer doing okay with his RNG for the Sky Cabbages and Dead Rocks. Skarsnik almost getting Dead Rocked, makes it around, but that will give Chauncer a little bit of time on him. We did see Chauncer attempt to line up for a quick warp. This teleporter, if you enter it from the right side the first time you come up the mountain, as Skarsnik just did, you'll save 32 frames from, or I think it's 34 frames, basically half a second from the warp animation. Great time save there. Skarsnik wasn't able to get the second one, though. We are diving into Tower of Hera, the last of our pendant dungeons. Very fast dungeon overall. We're going to go to the basement, grab a small key. We're going to head to the other part of the basement through the infamous tile room, pick up our big key, and then we're heading straight to the top. So I get the feeling both of our runners are going to try something pretty slick here. Well, actually, Skarsnik has his bombs out, but Chauncer does a really nice boom dash. Wow. With the boom dash. So how this works is there's a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch you can do in this game called item dashing. If you press the item button and the dash button on the same frame, Link will do a synchronous dash and an item at the same time. Depending on the item, you get different effects. So for a hook shot, you can arm super speed. With a boomerang, you can throw a boomerang in a different direction if you do like a third input, and dash in another direction. In that situation, Chauncer was able to do that so he could stand on the pegs as he crossed over. And interestingly enough, Skarsnik used his last bomb to hit that switch, which is saving him a menu from having to go to the lamp. That's a very smart decision. They have one bomb jump that they have to do later on in the dungeon, so Skarsnik is going to have to do a menu that Chauncer has to do anyway. By not having an extra bomb there, he was able to save a menu. That was smart. Chauncer also having a little bit of trouble with beetles. Didn't get the optimal kill there. That gives Skarsnik a little bit of time to catch up. Chauncer's the first one into the petting zoo, as we call it, because there's mini moldworms everywhere, and it's like a petting zoo. Skarsnik not far behind either. They're both on the same screen. Chauncer getting the close setup, it looks like, for the bomb, but he's going to dash just in case. So how that works is you have to be within 2 pixels of the edge of the gap if you're going to just simply do a bomb jump across. If you want to do a bomb jump with a dash against the wall, that window expands to 6 pixels away from the ledge. So you have a lot more flexibility, and there's also pretty easy timing with it. Oh, asking in chat about where we got the bombs. The beetle room had one underneath the pots. They could also get a backup one in the room right before Moldorm, or in the room in the back half of the petting zoo room. Moldorm here needs 6 hits in order to go down. We have 5 regular speed hits, and then the 6th one, he goes kind of crazy. Skarsnik's the first one into the last hit, and the first one done with the fight. So with Moldorm down, Skarsnik actually pulls ahead. This is interesting. And both runners doing very well in their light world, so this is a very tight race. It'll be interesting to see if there's any differences in safeties picked up in this run. To my knowledge, I believe both Skarsnik and Chauncer can do this run deathless without powder, so we won't necessarily even see any mushrooms this race. But stay tuned, folks. We don't know that just yet. Here we get to see a little bit more movement optimization. I believe both of these runners are going to try to use a pause buffer at the end of this long hallway to try to avoid bonking into the wall. And yep, they both got it. If you bonk into that wall, you'll fall into the pit and have to redo the room, so that's no fun. So now here's an opportunity for Skarsnik to pull even further ahead. Chauncer had to stop at that tree to do his first tree pull because he's relying on those trees for his rupees for Palace of Darkness. So how the tree pulls work is there's 3 different things that you can get from the trees when you pull them, the ones that do have rupees. You'll get green rupees if you haven't killed any enemies, or if you've taken damage and not killed enemies. If you kill 4 enemies with taking damage, you'll get blue rupees, as Chauncer just did. And if you kill 4 more enemies without taking any damage, you'll get red rupees. You do these tree pulls twice and get those 4 kills, don't take damage, you'll have 110 for Palace of Darkness. That being said, though, the overall time difference between those routes, not heavy, not significant, as long as you don't mess up either of the routes. Pretty hard to mess up the Sahasla rupees, but Chauncer could take damage somewhere, and that would actually put him in a bad spot. But this will be mostly evident, the differences in these routes, when our runners both enter Hyrule Castle to go to Aghanim. We'll be able to see how long it takes for them to both get there respectively. Skarsnik has skipped the mushroom, Chauncer has not. Now keep in mind, whether or not our runners actually go to pick up the powder, Chauncer will still have access to the fake powder glitch, so he could be picking up this mushroom as a backup strategy. We have people in chat asking about Skarsnik's timer. Could have possibly have accidentally stopped it when he split. At the end of the day, though, the official Speed Racing TV time is what we're going to go by. And obviously the video evidence. So, yeah, no worries there. I mean, if it's really that close, we have certain ways of timing things. But our runners are heading back to Hyrule Castle to make their approach to Aghanim. And that fight... This is almost kind of like a mini Ganon's Tower. There's just a bunch of rooms that we may call like a mini gauntlet, a couple dark rooms to deal with. We're going to see a lot of movement optimization and combat optimization here in this section. So Skarsnik is doing a spin slash and 4 arrows to take out these gold guards. And Chauncer getting the traditional strategy with the arrows and spin slashes against both guards. You'll notice that these guys are trying to dash through certain enemies that are in a certain prize pool. The prize pack, how it works is you have a 50-50 chance with most prize packs of dropping an item, and it proceeds in a certain progression. So the first item would be, just for example, like a heart. Next one, in the prize pack that we're looking at, the second one is a fairy. So we want to avoid killing any of the enemies in that prize pack. The reason why is when we get to Turtle Rock, a good 40 or 50 minutes later from now, probably 40 minutes in their case, when we get there, there's a pokey enemy that's in the same group as those blue guards. We want to get a fairy drop right before the chain chomp room in that dungeon. And so neither of our runners incremented the prize pack counter by dashing through enemies. That's important. Interestingly enough, it looks like Chauncer has pulled ahead because Skarsnik had a bit of a rough fall. He's having some difficulty in this dark room. Oh yeah, we also talking in chat about the mini Helmasaurs. Those are also in the same prize pack with the fairy. We're going to have one kill that we expect to make on the Palace of Darkness bridge. Now, if we're lucky, we might get a drop from that one, although we could potentially kill another mini Helmasaur later. We want to avoid getting the fairy drop, that's what matters. Skarsnik having a rough death here in Hyrule Castle, so Chauncer's going to have a bit of a hefty lead going into Aghanim. That's tough. The nice thing, though, is that the Dark Maze he did earlier, he's not going to have to pick up the key again. So it'll be a little faster of a climb. Just want to remind you folks that sometimes the difference in some of these strats or taking a death can come from whether or not Chauncer decides to, pick up his powder. If he picks up his powder, then the difference here is not as big as it looks. The next boss man, the man who kidnapped Zelda himself, Aghanim. We call him Aghanim 1 because we're going to have a refight later, a rematch of sorts. First, he accosts you for finding his secret chambers, and now he's going to shoot balls at you. So, this boss fight has 5 attacks in the cycle. The first one is guaranteed to be reflectable, some good old Ganon volleyball. Attacks 2, 3, and 4 are a 50-50 chance of being a regular reflective attack or blue balls, which we cannot reflect. We don't like blue balls in this community. So far, he's having perfect luck. He needs to get 6 total. Looks like the third shot of those random ones was a blue ball, so he has 1 so far. The 5th is in a lightning attack that he cannot reflect, and then it starts over. So that first one of each phase is going to be guaranteed. Our runners can get, at worst case scenario, 15 blue balls if they hit every guaranteed shot, which would be 5 full cycles. That would be terrible. Chauncer getting by with just 1. That's a good fight. On average, you would see, about 3 per run. Anything more than that, and you feel kind of rough. Anything less than that, and you're like, well, I suppose I have to PB now. Chauncer's going to be done with the Light World just after 30 minutes, though. Skarsnik not going to be far behind, though. Heaven forbid, though, if he gets 15 blue balls, he's going to have a couple minutes lost here. We also have Skarsnik in chat mentioning his Dark Maze. One thing that you want to avoid in that Dark Maze, and obviously he knows about it, he's just, had a little bit of rough luck with his RNG. You want to avoid alerting those guards. If you alert the guards, then they're starting to chase after you. It's much harder to do that fight. So now that Chauncer's in the Dark World, he's going to make his way to Eastern Palace. He has the requisite rupees, so he doesn't have to do any farming for Kiki. Skarsnik has not had a blue ball yet. He's having a pretty good fight. And it looks like he's having the same fight so far. He's had 1 blue ball. With any luck, though, he'll emerge with just that. And so Aghanim 1 is also one of the more random fights of the game. So, this is a place where a lot of runners can lose time. Skarsnik has 2 blue balls so far. He needs, I believe, 1 more shot in order to finish up the fight. All right, so 1 and 2 respectively. Very good Aghanim fights out of both of these runners. Also worth noting that, oh wow, hey Skarsnik, you have like 90,000 tabs open. You might want to close some of those. I hear it's actually bad for your. I don't even know. If he's playing on an actual console, I get it, but I just don't know how his capture software keeps up with that. Anyway, Chauncer here has made his way into Palace of Darkness. I like to call it Palace of Mirrors, or House of Mirrors, whatever you might want to call that. He gets very narrowly away from a fireball, which could have 1.0'd him. One thing in Japanese 1.0 version of the game that didn't get patched out until later is that enemies can still damage you while you're falling down pits. So as long as they hit the spot where you were, you could still get kind of screwed out of, avoiding the damage. This also applies to floor masters who can pick you up after you've already fallen down a gap. So getting 1.0 is something our runners want to avoid. In the meantime, Chauncer's doing a couple of item grabs, mostly just the small keys and the big key. He has the big key now, so we are ready to head towards the back half. Having the mirror here is fantastic. Some of you may have come here from watching the randomizer, having seen this, this dungeon. You see a lot more of it in that. You also don't always have the mirror. We get through this dungeon pretty fast. Chauncer here is going to come up on the next big trick. It's going to be a bomb jump. So the hammer jump, or hammer yump as many people call it, it's a 2-pixel perfect placement both of a bomb and Link. We're going to use the side of the walkway here to regain our fastest movement speed. Chauncer's going to use some pause buffers, knowing exactly where Link needs to be when he places the bomb. You don't have a lot of time to do it, though, because this is a collapsing bridge, and if you place the bomb late, you're going to fall off. Realizing that he didn't get it in time, Chauncer elected to reset the room and pick up the other bomb. So this is 2 perfect placements on the y-axis for that. He also throws a bomb over to open up that door, using pause buffers to get himself back in position for the jump. He clips through the rail. Very nicely done. Chauncer getting this in 2 tries without wasting any bombs. Doing this overall, if you do it perfectly, saves about 30 to 40 seconds, depending on your execution through a dark maze. Getting it in a second try without wasting bombs, very great place to be. Now, Chauncer has 5 bombs. One thing that we'll get every time that we mirror is we have another opportunity to pick up more bombs. This will be very handy for later. You shouldn't have to worry about picking up any others. Skarsnik hot in his heels, though, as Chauncer heads into the basement next. Spending a little bit close to all the arrows he could afford. He has 4 left, so this should be enough to get through the Mimic Room without having to delay it all. He's going to want to pick up some arrows, though, because he's going to need them later. Chauncer very nearly getting the sexy statues. We call it that when you can turn around the corner of the statue and get it into the spot without having to disengage from the push. Chauncer electing to pick up an extra set of 5 arrows. Skarsnik appears to be doing the top bomb jump. So Skarsnik's going to go downstairs to pick up the key. He's not going to have to go through the dark maze at all after he's done with the bomb jump. He's also going to pick up some extra rupees here. The reason he does this is he wants to skip a chest that we would normally get 300 from in Village of Outcasts. So interesting choice here. We'll see which one he's going to skip later. In the meantime, Chauncer's going to make his way to the turtle room. These turtles are very dangerous as we approach Helmasaur King. And Skarsnik does the top bomb strat with no buffers. Very cleanly done. Chauncer avoids the turtle party, probably having more of a pizza party, if you know what I mean. Making his way to Helmasaur King. This boss fight is very straightforward, but pretty deadly. So what our runners need to do is they're going to have the sword outstretched. They're going to hit the shell of Helmasaur King 17 times. On the 17th hit, it'll despawn any Ancilla sprites, like for example the fireball if there is one on screen. And it'll be the enraged phase. At that point, we need to get 8 sword slashes or a combination that does, for example, hammer strikes here. You can get 4 of those to finish them off. But instead, Chauncer just does it with 3 hammer strikes, which are really hard to hit, and 2 quick slashes. So Chauncer emerging with 0 hearts taken. Fantastic fight. That's about as good as you could have hoped for. And Skarsnik getting the really clutch 10 drop. Wow. In chat asking about the 300 rupees that we skip. I mean, it's not tremendously slower if you're already going down there to get the key. There's a little bit of dark maze you don't have to do, after picking up the hammer. Overall, it's not a gigantic time difference. Skarsnik's probably more familiar with doing this route. And the top bomb jump is much easier. You have a lot more time to line it up. So it's risk-reward. I mean, he may end up being a little bit behind from it, but having done it in 1 try instead of the 2 tries that Chauncer had to do, I think he probably actually caught back most of that time. Chauncer leaving Palace of Darkness at 37.45. We'll see what the true gap is between these runners shortly. So traditionally speaking in this game, if you're playing casually, this is the point where the rest of the Dark World becomes a little more available to us. We can now cross the bridge west of Palace of Darkness and head to the rest of the game world. We're going to pick up our flute next. Skarsnik here has finished off Helmasaur King with just 1 attack taken. Had a margin of error 2 there, did really well in that fight. And Skarsnik has the answer for us regarding the differences in those strats. I appreciate you telling us. It sounds like you're also listening to the commentary. I appreciate you handling both game audio and comms. That's impressive. I would find that very distracting myself. Chauncer is going to head to the Flute Kid, or as I like to say, Pinocchio. He's going to give us a shovel. He wants us to dig up his old rusty wind instrument with the flute or ocarina, as you may say. We're going to grab this on our way to Kakariko Village, since we're on the way that way anyway. We're going to use this, well, in Chauncer's situation, he may end up using this just to get the powder. Otherwise, though, he would just want this for Misery Mire later and some faster overworld movement, which we're always going to pick up the flute. This is the best time to get it. Alright, so we're looking at about a minute difference between these two. Or, I'm sorry, I think it's 2 minutes. Forgot for a second what minute I was counting. So a little bit under 2 minutes difference. Chauncer having a pretty significant advantage. That death in Aghanim's tower was pretty costly for Skarsnik. That being said, there is no insurmountable lead here. Both of these runners are really great at this game, and either of them could have a death in a really bad place, because this is a very difficult game, as I'm sure any runner will tell you. Chauncer electing to flute immediately to 2, so Chaucer's going to try to take the lead that he has and secure it. I don't disagree with this at all. In a race setting, it's a very safe thing to do to have the powder. If you run well, you don't have to use it. If you have a rough time, then you don't have to lose a death to your opponent. There's a couple of different times that we can pick up this powder. Our runners, if they had picked up the mushroom immediately, could have actually gotten it before even Desert Palace. It works out best to pick up the mushroom after Tower of Hera. And then the optimal time to get powder is actually after Skull Woods, when we're already heading towards the potion shop. That being said, though, once you have the flute, it's like a 8 to 10 second difference over that route. Really not too meaningful. This also gives them some safety for the next large jump in difficulty, which is Thieves Town and then Skull Woods, respectively. Both you're going to have enemies that do a lot more damage, and a lot more to look around for. So Chauncer seems to want to make sure that he's going to be okay for the next couple dungeons. I don't blame him. That's when I would normally pick it up myself. Skarsnik taking the west side when he activates the flute. He is not going to be stopping for any sort of safety. So will be a pretty great opportunity for Skarsnik to catch up a little bit. Chauncer entering at 41:35. We'll see when Skarsnik gets into Thieves Town. Now, this dungeon would actually be kind of complicated if this were a casual playthrough. We know exactly where we're going, of course. We're just going to make a big old loop. We're going to take 3 rights. It's not going to quite make a left, though. Somehow it makes a right. And then we're going to head straight to the back half. So you say that Scrivo says fluting there is faster than mirroring when you go to Catfish. I mean, I guess it depends on what's faster, a mirror warp or a flute. I want to say, though, that the flute should be slower. Because you got a flute back, too, so if you can save a flute, I just don't see how that would be slower than, you know, doing mirrors. Based on Skarsnik entering Thieves Town at 42:35, though, our runners are basically 1 full minute apart. Chauncer having some difficulty in the Hellway getting the nice RNG in the setup. So there's a 1 Y pixel gap that you can line up in that conveyor room, and if you dash perfectly through, and you have good RNG, sometimes you can get through there unscathed without having to change your direction at all. Chauncer didn't have any luck there. We'll see if Skarsnik has a better time with that room. Regarding the flute versus mirror for the powder, though, I'm not an authority on that. I definitely haven't timed that out myself. We're going to almost get a high five out of these runners as Chauncer picks up his ferry in the Hellway and heads towards the basement, and Skarsnik, we're going to see if he gets this God Pixel here. Unfortunately doesn't. He's going to make some adjustments, getting some very trolly RNG out of these enemies. Not a big deal, though. Has still 4 hearts to go. Blind fight that they're coming up on shortly. As long as they do it right, they shouldn't take any damage, and if they do, maybe 2 or 3 hearts. So Skarsnik should be in good shape. That being said, though, he needs to be very careful not to take more damage in this dungeon. There's only a couple places he can heal. Next up, Chaucer's picking up the Titan's Mitt. This is the main reason why we're here in the first place. We would come to this dungeon earlier than the others because these Titan's Mitts allow us to get the Tempered Sword much earlier than we're really intended to. That doesn't mean that we were prevented from getting this, though. The game does technically give you everything you need to do this first. As Chauncer starts his blind fight and wondering, well, what are we going to do with this maiden? Well, spoiler alert if you haven't played this game, that's not a maiden. Or at least, definitely not the maiden that it appears to be. It's going to take 3 hits per phase, or per head, from the detach from Blind's body. Once you've done those 3 hits, the floating head starts flying around in a predetermined path, based on where Blind is in the room when you hit him. Chauncer does take a hit, he loses his sword beams, but right now he's doing pretty well for the fight. Just need to get one more hit and is through. So that could be a difficult fight. Had he not powdered earlier, he would have 1 heart left right now. So he could have gone through this without even bothering. That's a little bit of a time save that Skarsnik potentially has over him. All in all, though, Chauncer had a very good Thieves Down. Skarsnik looking pretty good himself with this. Skarsnik wisely taking the heart in that pot before he does the room. Definitely don't want to mess up this fight. He was a little bit off his alignment with Blind. That can impact how fast you get those first attacks off. And it looks like he might have a weird cycle, too, because of it. So that's going to be kind of strange to recover from. These heads, when you get hit by the heads directly, do 2 hearts of damage, so he's got to be very careful here. And with just 1 heart remaining, Skarsnik gets through the fight. That was a very close fight. If he had not picked up that heart outside that room, we'd be looking at a much different race here. Well, shout-outs to Skarsnik for not dying there. That's an important death to not take. Not only would it obviously be a cost to time, but the blind fight becomes significantly more difficult. Normally, when you first enter the fight, you have a advantageous positioning. You can get above it and get that whole first phase done pretty much free. On the refight, you don't have that luck. You have to do some really strange movements, and he already starts off in position ready to attack you. So both runners emerging unscathed from that fight. We're going to go pick up our Tempered Sword now. Skarsnik has another opportunity to save a little bit of time over Chauncer, not having to pick up one of these chests. He'll probably get the one on the way to Skull Woods and head directly to... Well, actually, I'm not sure which one he does, to be honest with you. He's trying to get spin speed off of the entrance to Thieves Town. That's a lesser seen one. That's very nice to see, though. And he skips the south chest with 300 rupees, so he's going to head directly to the Tempered Sword. Chauncer taking advantage of a pretty nice warp location to get in and out of the blacksmith's house very quickly. And tries for the fence dash. I think he may have actually had it, but second-guessed himself. So we're 0 for 1 on fence dashes today. So at this point in the game, we've kind of pulled a little bit further ahead of our progression than what the game kind of wants for us. Typically, the game, based on the dungeon order written on the crystals, would have you going to Swamp Palace after Palace of Darkness. We're not going to see that hookshot for a while, though, that we're going to get from Swamp Palace. Instead, we're going to take advantage of having these Titans mitts to get this really nice sword, and we're going to go beat up on a moth real quick. This is also going to get us our Fire Rod nice and early. Chauncer had a really good Gibdo room to pull the statue in place, didn't run into any major issues there, and still has full health. Always a good sign. Those Gibdos are very difficult to deal with. And it looks like Chauncer's going to do a bomb jump here, just like the Tower of Hera bomb jump. He's in good position, though. Doesn't have to do the bonk strategy at all. Excellent bomb jump. One try. He has 5 bombs left, so he's not going to need bombs for a while. We may end up seeing later on that our runners will try to use their last bomb to save a menu, where they would normally have to switch items. They can completely forego doing that once they use their last bomb. Interestingly enough, I didn't notice this until now. Skarsnik's timer seems to have caught up at some point. I'm wondering if he's trying to adjust that manually, but could just be that his timer is a different format that I wasn't expecting. As you'll notice, if you blinked, you might have missed it. Skull Woods is a very fast dungeon. Chauncer's almost to the boss already. He's got a couple more rooms to deal with. Gets really nice RNG in that room and gets a key dash. To kind of explain what a key dash is, Link's collision detection only happens once every 4 frames, and it just so happens that you move 4 pixels per frame when you're dashing. So if you line up on what I guess you would call the tile coordinate grid, let's just say you line up with, you know, any given object on the floor, because those are usually correctly aligned with the room. If you do a dash while aligned with that stuff, you'll actually unlock the door on the same frame that Link's collision would have detected him bonking into it, allowing you to just dash all the way through it. Chauncer here is going into the Mothula fight. If he gets a good poke dash there, it's going to be a very fast fight. Holy smokes. Chauncer with about as perfect of a Mothula fight as you could hope for. He didn't get the initial poke dash, but didn't need it. Getting very nice reactions to Mothula's movement. He managed to keep him off of the spikes. That's the big thing here. Ooh, Skarsnik also got his key dash. If you can keep Mothula off the spikes, you're going to have a much better fight, because if you knock him into the spikes, any damage that you just did gets overridden. Getting a pretty nice Mummy Hell way with a very slick item dash at the end of it. Skarsnik doing well to get to the back half with the Mothula fight. If he has a good fight, then he has a decent chance to catch some time on Skarsnik. On Chauncer, excuse me. Although he is wasting a little bit of time before the fight. You can see Skarsnik takes a moment just to make sure that Floor Master drops away from the hole. He could have got 1.0'd there and have to restart the second half of the dungeon. He's in a very precarious position. He can't take more than 1 hit. And Skarsnik closes it out as well. So we have very good Mothula fights for both of our runners. It can definitely go faster than that, but nobody dying, that's what's important. That's an easy fight to die to. Skarsnik, you have way too many tabs open. Please, for all that is good, all that is pure, give your computer a break, man, my friend. I know you're checking in on Chauncer, but yikes, man. Also, for whatever capture you have going on, your window capture, I believe, that is overlaid on top of your game right now. In chat asking about Chauncer taking a hit from a Gibdo and taking 0 damage, it's possible that they had a frame rule. As we mentioned before, that collision detection sometimes isn't perfect. So he could have potentially avoided it that way. That's also possible. Actually, I'm not sure. If he did a recoil animation, I'm not sure why he wouldn't take damage there. He could have also picked up a health refill at a convenient timing. Like if he had bumped into a spike and picked up 1 heart at the same time, you may have never noticed it. I'm not sure. That's definitely something I'll have to double check when I rewatch this. In the meantime, though, Chauncer and Skarsnik are both going to take advantage of the portal that was made after defeating Aghanim at the castle gate. They're going to use this to get faster routing to King Zora and the Catfish, which is going to give us the Quake Medallion, which we're going to need for Turtle Rock later. And, of course, our flippers, which we're going to put to use immediately in Ice Palace. King Zora here is the biggest extortionist in Hyrule, at least in the Light World. Dark World that has Kiki. I get the feeling that Kiki in a former life, before the Sacred Land became the Dark World, was actually a Zora. Just gonna throw that theory out there. But for 500 rupees, we now have the ability to gulp water at extreme rates. As you can see, the swim animation really does look like Link's gulping water. You'll also notice that both runners decide to bonk against the wall to the right of Catfish. This puts us in a perfect position to do a quick warp. I didn't really explain quick warps properly earlier. It's based on, I mean, I kind of explained what it is, but if you position the camera correctly, the game camera, on a correct y-axis pixel, you can get the warp animation to happen faster, presumably because of less lag. That's my best explanation that I've heard. But doing that setup with the bonk is guaranteed every time as long as you move straight up and don't move left or right. Chauncer has dove into Ice Palace at about 54.45. We'll see where Skarsnik is at the same time. Alright, so Chaucer's making his way into the lower half of Ice Palace. This is a very fast dungeon in NMG. It's a nice time to not be running the randomizer because we only have to go right to the boss. And the bomb jump doesn't force us to do some loop and stuff. So what we're going to do here is got a nice double kill out of Chauncer for the Stalfos Knights. Interesting property about those Stalfos Knights. As a consequence of how they're coded, if you've knocked down one of them, both of them become bombable. So you don't actually have to do that second attack to bring the, or they collapses the second one. We only actually slash him there so that we can get him closer to the other one for the fast kill. But if you had placed 2 bombs, they would work whether he's collapsed or not. It only checks the state for one of them. Chaucer's having a little bit of difficulty here with the bomb jump. Now, he does have powder. He's going to have the safety when he gets to cold stare. This is another reason why it's such a big thing to pick up powder, is because when you have some difficulty with some of these tricks, you have a couple of backups to work with. It looks like Skarsnik is about 45 seconds behind Chauncer entering the dungeon. Has an opportunity to gain some of that time back. And you'll see on Skarsnik's screen the exact double kill we were just talking about. Very nicely done. It works the same way every time. Those spawns are going to be identical. So here we have Chauncer walking into the block room. This is the reason we do the bomb jump, is because you don't have to loop back through the dungeon to get that block down. If we had the Cane of Samaria by going to Misery first, we could just use that here. But reality is, it's just so much better to take on Vitreous with more health. Skarsnik gets his bomb jump in one try, so he has saved some time over Chauncer in this split. And with that, Chauncer, with full health, is going to make his attempt on Cold Stare. He could do the Sword Beam strategy. I'm not sure if he's familiar with it or ever attempts it in a run, but he could get by with a little bit of extra safety doing that. He opts instead to use all of his magic on the shell. With Tempered Sword, it's really not too hard to get the 6 slashes, which is what most people will do. The difficulty is that you can't take more than 2 hugs, so you just gotta be careful not to get hit too hard here. Had a little bit of a Cold Stare party, but no problems, and we're through the fight. Chauncer picking up his heart at 58.09 as a keyframe reference for Skarsnik here. With a really good Cold Stare fight, Skarsnik could pull this in pretty close, having gained probably about 15 to 20 seconds or so in the split. He has half health, though, so he's got to be very careful in this fight. So he gets the ice to fall in a different position. If he gets good slashes, does very well. That's a great Cold Stare fight. Picking up his heart at 58.48, so they're about 30 seconds apart right now. Or, I'm sorry, about 40 seconds apart. Now, as it was before, we still have some flexibility about where we want to go next. We already have the flute. but we will need Ether in order to get into Misery Mire. We don't necessarily want to go there next. Our runners are going to head to 4 next to go to Swamp Palace. We're going to take a bit of a breather here. Maybe go for a relaxing swim or two. Maybe poke some eyes out. I don't know if that fits the sentence very well, but that is what we're heading to do. Chauncer didn't attempt the quick warp on this portal, which is unfortunate because that's actually a much slower warp. Now, there could be some route diversions. I don't think they're going to have it in this race, but some runners would, after Ice Palace, opt to pick up items that get them to the Gold Sword and Silver Arrows. These runners won't be doing that in this run, though. They're certainly not trying to spend that much time. But Skarsnik could choose to get Ice Rod and Ether now. Elects to go straight to Swamp Palace instead. We'll still need to pick up those 2 items. Our runners will definitely get Ether after this dungeon. They may also pick up Ice Rod during that shopping trip. Not a gigantic difference either way, which way or what timing they use to get those items. As we cross the 1 hour mark, Chauncer's entering Swamp Palace. Skarsnik not far behind, just has to drain some water from the well. So here's where we get to rear the ugly head of having the Tempered Sword much sooner than we should. Swamp Palace is ideally in, I guess, intended dungeon order, the 2nd dungeon that we encounter in the Dark World. It's now actually the 5th. So with all of these extra heart pieces, or heart containers, with all of the extra equipment we have, this becomes a much easier dungeon to deal with. We hit harder and we have more hearts to get hit with. So this is going to come into most usefulness, or the best effect, as we fight the boss, Argus. Normally those puffballs you have to hookshot away from it take 2 Master Sword swings. With Tempered, it's just 1, so that's a very hefty advantage that our runners have going in through this dungeon. Not a terribly large amount to talk about, though, as far as optimization goes. It's pretty much just dodging enemies, making sure you kill as little as possible. But for the most part, this is just a quick journey to the left side. Gonna pick up that big key and then move right on to the boss. Pretty standard dungeon, I guess, for this game. While we have a little bit of a lull in the action, I do want to remind our audience to follow these runners. Chauncer and Skarsnik both have a very good chance at progressing into this tournament further. The victor of this match is going to have the commanding lead, though. It would be very strange to see neither of the, well, it'd be very strange for the winner of this match to not advance. Although there could potentially be some tiebreak opportunities with 2-1 ties. I guess I should probably talk a little bit about that, since that is relevant here. So DBZ Fan Kid Boo, the current leader of this group, has wins against me and Chauncer. Chauncer, if Chauncer were to beat Skarsnik today, he would be up 2-1 as well. And that would put Skarsnik at 1-1. Skarsnik would have to beat DBZ Fan Kid Boo for us to have the 3-way tie, and then it would come down to who has the best race time. So that's going to be interesting to see. If Chauncer loses today, he'll be out of the tournament because Skarsnik and DBZ Fan Kid Boo will both have 2 wins. So Chauncer would then join me in the bleachers. Runner Watcher, neither of them have picked up Ice Rod or Ether, so this is still very close. They're definitely within a minute of each other. So far, though, Chauncer's done a great job of not giving Skarsnik too many opportunities to catch up. There have been a couple time saves here and there, but 1 or 2 mistakes out of Skarsnik has kept this pretty much at the same distance. Definitely an exciting race, though. Chauncer's fighting for his tournament life. You can really tell in his gameplay. You see he did a hook dash to that statue. This allows us to pick up the pot underneath the statue up there in 1 try every time. Useful technique, more just to make sure that it works every time. And gets a nice dash through the red jelly. I don't know. Do you think those jellies are red or orange, chat? I never get a clear answer on that. I could be colorblind for all I know. Meanwhile, Chaucer is heading to the last opportunity to pick up some hearts before the Argus fight, unless he wants to go to the restock room. Doesn't bother to heal, though. He has 10 hearts remaining, definitely in a good place. Skarsnik may stop to grab a couple hearts. I don't think he'll have too much trouble with Argus, but things can go sideways. You always kind of want to be careful. Now, there is a decent chance that one of our runners may attempt the Zero Cycle boss fight here against Argus. They would have to do a hook dash while they have her sword outstretched in the screen, and then they can just continuously spam the hook shot to get fast attacks on this boss. Chaucer looked like he was going for it, but I think he had a bit of a misstep, so he's just going to revert back to normal boss fighting strategies. So far, 1 cycle. If he can get this in under 2, that's going to be a really good fight for him. Getting trolled a little bit. Not sure if he had this. Nope, he only had 1 cycle, so this is a good fight. Missed a fire rod shot, so he'll have an extra sword spin. And it looks like Skarsnik was trying for it as well. Didn't pull it off, but immediately reverted back to regular sword slashes. It's very easy to lose time trying to do the Zero Cycle strategy, so that was a smart decision by him. It'll definitely pay off if he doesn't get a 2nd cycle, though. Okay, good. And he's going to opt to just do 2 spin attacks. So our racers have had basically an identical boss fight here. This is also one of the longer cutscenes of the game, so we have a little bit of synchronicity on the screen. As a bit of a keyframe reference, Chaucer is leaving Swamp Palace at 106:30. Now that Chaucer has picked up everything he needs, though, from when it comes to dungeons, he's going to make his grab of Ether right now. He's going to climb Death Mountain to do so. He may elect to grab Ice Rod after Misery Mire. Unfortunately, getting dead rocked. No recourse there. There's nothing you can do to get around it. He's just going to try and block off the other squirrels to prevent them from giving him trouble. So if Skarsnik has better RNG on the mountain, he has a little bit of time save, potentially. Chaucer's attempting to do an item dash with the hook shot to get super speed. Having a little bit of bad luck there. It doesn't take too long to just dash around anyway, though. If you do a hook dash while you have your sword out, you can do a sword climb. Also having some trouble with that one as well, so he's just going to get the hook dash out of the staircase. Skarsnik getting trolled by the sky cabbages as well. The RNG gods here in Hyrule are not friendly, but he does get his sword climb. Very nice looking. Ooh, and jumps off. That's rough. Like we said before, when you're in super speed, you will hop the ledge as soon as you touch it, so that's rough because he was going to catch some time back up on Chaucer there. And it looks like Chaucer is going to pick up his Ice Rod now as well. This is good, though, because he's not going to have to worry about remembering it later. I truthfully believe there's no reason to not grab it by now, but, you know, very handy. And with that, Chaucer has all of the equipment he's going to need. Skarsnik not far behind. Because Chaucer did lose some time on the mountain, this is going to put these runners even closer. They are about 20 to 30 seconds apart. Probably 25 seconds based on what I'm counting here. Also, mysteriously, somehow Skarsnik managed to get his timer back in alignment. I don't know how he did it. Some kind of magic, but I'm impressed. So it does appear to be about a 30-second difference between these runners right now. Now, this is a point where Chaucer's choice to pick up powder could very well pay off for him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have full health walking into Misery Mire, neither does Skarsnik. They're both going to probably rely on Fire Rod strats. Although I can't tell for sure what Skarsnik's going to do just yet. But Chaucer does have the powder, so if he ends up having pretty low health walking towards Vitreous, he's got the option to refill his health and not have to worry about doing the damage boost. Neither of our runners pulling off a bird toss. No love for memes in this race. But for as close as it is, and I know they can both see each other's race streams, I don't blame them. Definitely understand. Just to reiterate, our runners have very tight PBs within a minute of each other. Skarsnik, his personal best, which is pretty old, is an hour, 33 minutes, and 6 seconds. Chaucer with an hour, 33 minutes, and 53 seconds. So it'll be very interesting to see where this race ends up. Stay tuned, folks. We're going to determine what happens to this group, whether or not there's a potential tiebreak scenario or not. One nice thing that we get to use here in the Japanese 1.0 version is when you push a block, it becomes a sprite temporarily. And as it turns out, it doesn't have collision. So you can use the Fire Rod while it's in motion. You can do this with a hookshot as well to dash or to hookshot through items. We'll take advantage of that in Gan's Tower. But doing so allows us to avoid this block puzzle almost completely, making it a much faster room. Chaucer's going to drop down here to pick up his big key. Skarsnik hot on his heels. I'm almost amazed to be able to say it, but this race is still getting even closer. Chaucer does have the advantage, though. Whether it's execution or not, he does have the safety. He's going to make his way downtown, walking fast, getting the cane, you know. I don't know, there's a lyrics joke there. I didn't think of the whole thing through. Right now, we are about 40 seconds apart, though, so Chaucer has gained about 10 seconds on Skarsnik. Very nicely done. So at this room Chaucer's in, you would normally take optimally 4 hearts of damage as you walk through here. He only takes 3, which is really nice. You got through that room pretty cleanly. Now, we use this as a reference because we're going to fight Vitreous up ahead with a damage boost strategy. Chaucer wisely picking up the 1 heart there. Probably will not even have to powder at all because the damage boost strat takes at least 4 or 5 hearts of damage, 4 if you do it optimally. And you always want to have, you know, as many hearts as you can walking into it, but having 10 right now, pretty comfy position for him. Skarsnik's going to hope to get pretty similar luck. He's going to have 4 hearts missing, and if he picks up that same heart that Chaucer did, he'll only have, well, he'll have 9 hearts when he enters the basement. That's not bad. We got to see a nice little cane dash out of Chaucer there. If you use an item dash when you already have a block out, you can save a fair amount of time. He unfortunately did not use his last bomb, so he didn't get the free menu there, instead having to just do a sword slash. Not exactly a time costly thing to do that. Maybe saving that bomb for later. Meanwhile, we have Skarsnik attempting his cane dash, and he nails it. But it does take a heart of damage. Chaucer here does elect to powder before Vitreous. Not a huge time loss, but he will have to menu back to the arrows. As you can see, he steps into the poisonous goop to take 1 heart of damage. These eyeballs, if you collide with them, do 4 hearts of damage, and he just did bump into one. So to be a little safer, he's going to opt to use some arrows against these to save himself some extra damage. But it has a 3-cycle fight against Vitreous. Chaucer was definitely hoping for a better fight there, but 8 arrows are going to knock out the eyeball. He's going to switch to Mirror at the last one, and he is ready to go to Turtle Rock. Skarsnik entering the fight right behind him. He's going to do the same exact damage boost strategy. Had a very good first spin, Just needs to have a good second and arrows, and he almost gets the 0 cycle, barely dodging that lightning. Good lord. With 4 hearts as well, he's going to emerge from the fight, though. Decent fight from both of our runners. This was... things could have gone a lot more sideways than that, so had very good reactions amongst the two of them. But it looks like we're about 25 seconds apart right now. Oh, chat bringing up that the free menu doesn't work with powder. You're absolutely right. It would have switched to a different item instead. Thanks for the reminder. Well, folks, we have everything we need. Josh got a hot 99 rupees. He's going to head right up to Death Mountain. So Death Mountain at this point, same deal as before. We're going to head straight up to Turtle Rock. We're going to take the right side of the Death Mountain at this point, since we do have that hook shot. Now, if Chauncer has any good luck, he's just going to go straight for it. We like to call this section the Waffle House. Shout-outs to Waffle, who had a very rough time through here once. No drive-through strat this time, but we didn't take too much damage, so that's always a good thing. We're getting a heck of a race out of these two racers, though. Most races are going to be a little bit further apart at this point, so pretty much lockstep with each other, keeping about a half a minute gap at all times. As far as pace goes, though, Chauncer here looking at a low 130 as well as Skarsnik. Both of these runners having a fantastic run so far. Get a nice little hook dash there to knock those pegs down faster. It's kind of precise to do. I'm surprised anybody can do that so reliably. Skarsnik, very close to getting dead rocked. Manages to avoid it. Gets an unfortunate bonk there, though. And we might see near synchronicity between these two. Almost a high five, but Skarsnik having some trouble with those pegs. And Chad asking about Skarsnik's timer, don't worry about it, he'll get it back in sync. I think he accidentally paused the timer, but it's not a big deal because our timing, the official timing is not based on that timer anyway. But chat, you're right, Skarsnik is catching up little by little. The gap has shrunk from as large as a minute down to about 25 seconds last that I saw. So overall, very tight race. Be interesting to see if we see people mirroring out of this roller room, or if they're going to just simply take the damage boost back through. As best as I can tell, we're looking at about a 20 to 25 second gap right now. Chauncer doing very well with his roller room strats, taking no damage. At this point, he was manipulating enemy prize packs to get a fairy drop right here that we talked about at 40 or 50 minutes ago. He doesn't need it right now, though, so he's kind of hoping not to get it. Does get the fairy drop, though, so he won't be getting one later. Having a little bit of bad RNG with the Chomp Room, but those sword beams make it so much easier to deal with. Gets through completely unscathed. Very nice first half of Turtle Rock so far from Chauncer. Skarsnik not far behind. He's also probably not wanting that fairy drop at this point. Doesn't get it, so he does have a good opportunity to get a heal later on in the dungeon. Going powderless, this is important. So he does preserve his prize pack and is going to get another shot at that. I think he's probably going to get it in the double pokey room. It is a 50-50 chance for any prize pack to drop whatsoever. So he could get it in the room that Chauncer's in right now as well. Chauncer picking up his big key. He's going to revert back through the same pipe, making a little bit of a backtrack, but it actually is faster than going down in that scenario. Both of our runners doing pretty well so far through the really annoying rooms. That bunny beam picking up, clipping Skarsnik there. That's kind of intended, though. If you get the sword spin before you get turned into a bunny, you're doing that room pretty quick. Now, at this high level of gameplay, I have to assume that both of these runners are going to attempt the laser bridge skip. Chauncer here is going to take some of the rough RNG of this pokey fight. Still getting past him, though, having no major issues. He almost picked up an 8-bomb stack, which would have been bad, because that's just a ton of bombs you don't need. Well, he's not going to try and do the menu save later, though, since he has powders, so I guess it wouldn't have mattered. We'll get a really nice strat using invincibility frames and the hook shot there. He's going to do a bonk to get across the gap, but he doesn't have sword beams, so he will take a little bit more damage from the rollers. I'm sure Chaucer's very happy that he picked up that powder at this point. While you're not in too much danger from Trinex, the laser bridge skip is deadly. You take 4 hearts of damage from those lasers, so you really only have 1 hit, error margin. I did not see if Chauncer got his fairy drop, but it's kind of a moot point at this point. We are fast approaching the laser bridge. Chaucer's about to put a demonstration of it on for us. We're going to get this beetle out of the way. We really don't want that guy. And with a nicely timed dash, we can avoid taking extra damage. Chauncer down to 1 heart, though, because he did actually get hit on the way back. He's got to be very careful here. Gets a nice key dash, though. Slick. He's going to want to heal pretty much now. You also got to watch out for that, because that anti-fairy will do 1 heart of damage, and that could have killed him if he got hit by that. In the meantime, though, he's doing just fine to get through, and anti-fairy trolling him a little bit. Now, Skarsnik's not going to stop for anything, so Skarsnik does actually gain a fair amount of time here, particularly with that nice cane dash. And with that, we're down to a 6 or 7 second difference. This race just got even tighter, folks. And we're not even at Ganon's Tower yet. Chauncer and Skarsnik both opting for the front door strats. This is much safer to do when you're a little bit lower on health. Skarsnik getting a little bit of rough luck there, though, not managing to kill the second head before the ice hits the ground. So Chauncer has gained a little bit of time back on him. This is a pretty standard fight overall, though, so our runners are not in too much danger. They'll be able to handle this pretty cleanly. That ice is making me nervous on Skarsnik's side, though. He does clean it up, but geez. That makes our current time gap pretty much 8 seconds even. This is an extremely close race, folks. Well, both of our runners have sync with both Link and Zelda. That's kind of hard to say 10 times fast, but they are now about to make their climb, well, their descent into Ganon's Tower's basement, and then their climb up the tower itself to attack Aghanim 2. With such a narrow gap between them, I mean, there's no major difference in strategy from here on out. There's no extra safeties to worry about. Chauncer does have the extra advantage of being able to powder before going into Moldorm 2 and Lammolis 2. But you got to think, with the race being this close, I don't think he's really going to try to do that unless he has to. You'll also notice that our runner's going to try and activate that crystal cutscene a little bit lower on the screen. This reduces lag and causes the animation to happen a little faster. Less of Ganon's Tower has to spawn at once. Well, has to animate at once. Chaucer's going to skip the torch key. Can pick one up from mini Helmosaurs later. However, Skarsnik does take the torch key. Negligible time difference between those routes. It's not, 0, but it's pretty low. Getting a very nice boomerang strategy out of Chauncer there with the hook shot. Probably see the same thing out of Skarsnik because it's pretty convenient to do it there. They also switch back to hook shot right away because we're going to use it in the next screen. Doing a really quick hook shot dodge. Everything from here on out is just their execution. Skarsnik taking a slight bump from one of those spikes. Not going to lose too much time from it, though. All right, everybody, we need to send our runners our energy. This is getting really close. We also saw a really nice skip out of Chauncer. Skarsnik's going to attempt it here. He tried to do a dash bonk against the wall to slide past the warp tile there. Doesn't save a ton of time, but definitely worth doing if you can pull it off. Not going to cost Skarsnik too much, but at this point, even frames starting to count more. So Chauncer does a really nice strategy against this Armos Knights fight. Ice Armos or Armos 2. One thing you'll notice is that Armos doesn't actually start the rotating pattern until all 6 Armos Knights are in position. So by shooting a couple arrows left, we're actually able to delay that, giving ourselves more time to get the arrows in and position ourselves for the fast kill. Chauncer did it pretty much flawlessly. Skarsnik doing a pretty good job of it himself. He does get to the top of the screen before they start moving, so he'll have an easy finish here as well. Chauncer did pick up his 10 arrows from the chest next to it. More for safety than anything. It's going to help him with the Mimics rooms. Skarsnik pretty much has to pick them up because you need 8 arrows to get through these. Using some well-timed slashes, Chauncer's going to reposition his Mimics. Has a little bit of trouble with it, but gets a clutch 10 drop. That's nice. Uh-oh, Chauncer's losing a little bit of time here on this. As we said before, it's an extremely tight race, so, I mean, every second counts. Looks like Skarsnik's having a little more luck with his Mimics so far. Ooh, one of them hitting the Bimo statue, so he's actually going to lose time on this particular room compared to Chauncer. He's also forced to pick up that heart because he does not have powder to fall back on. Chauncer's making his approach through Ganon Ball Z. It looks like he's skipping the safety room, which I'm sure at this point... Well, I mean, Skarsnik could try doing Gauntlet without it. I mean, 6 hearts is tight, though. Looks like Skarsnik is opting to do the slow walk strategy through the Ganon Ball Z, and he is going to do Gauntlet with 6 hearts, the madman. Chauncer not exactly in a much different position, though. He has 5 hearts. He will have an opportunity to powder before the Lamolus 2 fight, and I gotta think that's what he's going to do here. But, I mean, they both have 6 hearts. They can see each other's restream. They may just go for broke, you know. It's go Ganon or go home. Ooh, Chauncer just barely missing that arrow, but he does get a really nice reaction with the sword swipe and using the ice physics to his advantage. We will get a powder here before Lamolus 2, so a death here would be a nail in the coffin for Skarsnik. It would really go to show why it's so important to pick up a safety if you're not feeling confident on every room of the game. Chauncer's going to go for a relatively fast 2-cycle. Spends a lot of magic in this room to get that second one, but it should be just one more spin slash to finish it off. Oh, no, actually, 2. So Skarsnik with a good fight can gain some time back on Chauncer here. Does get trolled by the last one, so it is relatively tied on the Lamolus fight. Chauncer heading up into the Wizrobe room at 126. We have a 5, maybe 6 second gap still. Hiei and Chad also mentioning that if you powder the Bunny Beam right before Lamolus 2, it does actually change the spawn pattern of the Lamolus, so that is an important detail. Could explain why Chauncer had a little bit of difficulty getting the 2-cycle. Skarsnik having a little bit of rough time with the second Wizrobe room, though, taking some damage and a little bit of time delay. At 2.5 hearts, he's very close here, and there's not really much health between here and Ganon. Now, that being said, if Skarsnik feels good about his 0 damage 1-hit KO mode Ganon fight, he could still catch Chauncer on this. I mean, there's a good chance that Chauncer's going to powder before Ganon. Looks like Chauncer is not going to pick up the Mini Helmasaur King or Mini Helmasaur key. There will be another key in a chest in the room right before Moldorm 2 right here. So we get an opportunity to see if he chooses to powder. He hasn't, but because he missed there with his hook shot, he's going to elect to just to be sure. We do get our last gas before Ganon in 500 miles, the last magic refill of the game. We just need to hopefully have no falls here to Moldorm. Really hoping that for our runners here. And wow, Skarsnik pulls ahead with a better Moldorm 2 fight. Well, if you thought it was a done deal, think again. At this point, it's down to how our runners handle Aghanim 2 and how the Ganon fight goes. Skarsnik has pulled ahead, though. This is a crazy last-second development. Here in Aghanim 2, it's very similar to our first fight. This time he's got 2 after images, which always send reflective attacks, and the first one has a chance at giving a blue ball, just like before. Skarsnik getting 1 hit on his first cycle, same with Chauncer. Skarsnik getting 1 on his second. Getting none on his third, but Chauncer getting a triple on his second. But having a bad pattern again. So if Skarsnik can get enough of these... Oh, but the warp! And Chauncer pulls back ahead again because of bad Geometry Wizard RNG. This is terrible for Skarsnik. I mean, he had an opportunity to get a little bit ahead, but just getting some bad bounces. That's rough. Well, Skarsnik is going to walk into the Ganon fight with 1 heart, so he's in 1-hit KO mode. Hard to say. I mean, do you go for the fairy here? Do you just dive in, hoping that you can pull it out? This is a tough spot to be for Skarsnik. Chauncer walking in with nearly full health. Alright, so if you're Chauncer here, the big thing is to just try and get a 1-and-1. So it's going to take 12 sword slashes or the equivalent sword spins to advance the first phase. Chauncer did not manage to get that last slash in, so he's going to have to do a 2 cycle on the first one. He is in a position where he could have done some sword spins in the top right corner, probably trying to avoid the hug though. So he may end up having a 2 cycle. He may end up having a 2-and-2 cycle this. If Skarsnik does well, he could 1-and-1 as well. He's got to be really careful, though, because anything he takes damage from kills him right now. And with that, they're entering Phase 3 at the same time. There's a 2-second difference. It all comes down to Ganon warps at this point. With some rough warps on Chauncer's screen, Skarsnik pulls ahead yet again. Skarsnik getting the 2-and-1's really paying off for him here. He's going to finish Phase 3 before Chauncer does, getting the torch glitch. If you light that left torch before the right one goes out, you actually get an infinite right torch. Chauncer is also going to get his with the lamp. Skarsnik's going to switch to lamp instead of fire rod because he's going to try and get his doubles doing that. If Chauncer can pull off triples using the fire rod in good timing, he will finish off Ganon faster, but it remains to be seen so far. I can't even keep count with all these sword spins. They need 12 total while the lantern is lit. And Chauncer getting blue Ganon there. That's rough because he needs those triples. And Skarsnik takes a fall. Oh no. Well, this is now Chauncer's race to lose. He needs to just stay calm and get his sword spins. By the way, this is very close to his PB. That's a really tough fall for Skarsnik. He's probably really kicking himself right now. But Chauncer is going to finish up the pig within very close to his PB, within half a minute of his PB. And with that, Chauncer is going to be the winner of this race. What a race, folks. Holy cow, I'm sure Chaucer's got something to say about that, so I'm going to try and get him into the interview in just a moment. With that, Chaucer's going to finish with an official SRTV time of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 24 seconds. Holy smokes, GG. What a race, folks. Skarsnik has finished up his first 2 phases of his Ganon fight with 2 hearts remaining. He just needs to not take any damage here. He could take a fire bat if he had another heart, but we cannot really take any hits to this point, so it's once again one-hit KO mode. All right, I'm going to see about getting Chauncer in here for an interview. Meanwhile, everybody, please cheer on Skarsnik as he finishes up Phase 4 of Ganon here. Having a little bit of rough time with the blue Ganon there. It's going to be a bit of a time loss. He has a lot of magic to work with, though, so he should be good for the rest of this fight. Just needs to be careful and strategic about this. Skarsnik with just a couple spins left to go here. Getting really close there, but Skarsnik does finish up his Ganon fight. After this fanfare, we'll get an exact time on it, but GG to both of our racers. That was one hell of a race to watch. And with that, I don't believe Skarsnik, you have to actually hit done on Speed Racing TV, don't forget. And with that, Skarsnik finishes with an official SRTV time of 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 39 seconds. Unofficially on the stream, though, basically 1:36:54. Fantastic race for both of our runners. I'll see if I can get either of them in for an interview, because I'm sure they have a lot to say. Looks like Chauncer is going to skip out in the interview. No problems, though. GG to you, and wow, that was an impressive run. I will see if Skarsnik's got anything to say about this, though. Well, so this has pretty interesting implications for my group, though. I left this group, the Ball and Chain Guard group, 0-3. Hey, Skarsnik, how you doing?
Fine. So it was nice fun. Even kind of messed up the Ganon. That was really nice.
That was so close. I mean, I'm sure you were looking at the restream while this was going on, right?
Yeah, I was so close. Where is my... sorry, I'm searching for my volume control. Okay, should be better. Yeah, it was very close. I was so mad. I got him towers. Like, why the Dark Maze is all killing me?
Yeah, that was an unfortunate death. I mean, for the entire race, you know, the two of you were within a minute of each other. I mean, clearly speaks to how consistent the two of you are. That death was kind of a rough deal for you, though, because, I mean, with this, it's going to put you at 1-1. Chauncer's at 2-1. At this point, you have to be DBZ Fan Kid Boo to keep your tournament alive, and then I think it's going to come down to, who has the better average race, won't it?
I'm so sad on Ganon. I was like, why a / up? I will fall down, and I fall down. I was like, no, that was stupid.
Yeah, we had a couple people thinking that was like almost your last hit. I mean, it was so crazy though.
Yeah, it was. It was
nearly got you ahead.
I think he was nearly dead. By the way, is how you do the 1 cycle for the second phase when you go for 2+1.
Yeah, you did actually get that 1 cycle there, and that's what put you back ahead. Actually, once Chauncer got some warps, it was then a pretty big gap.
Yeah, some people are like, why you don't learn all the fucking pattern for the 1+1? Yeah, I will have to learn one pattern to lose 7 seconds.
You're raising a good point though, because there is 4 different places Ganon can warp to, and a couple different positions for each one.
Yeah, if you want to learn the 1+1, it's really hard. You have to nail the spin, and then after that you have to learn 5 or 4 patterns. Really not easy. If you go for 2+1, you have to learn. I don't cut the pattern going on top of Ganon and spin because it's not really a pattern. Just just do that. But
no,
you have only one pattern that works for every RNG can give you. It's pretty tight to get, but it's pretty satisfying to get. It's crazy because the last spin get you close to the fire bat.
Yeah,
but anyway,
pretty well executed overall. And it was good to see that recovery too, because I mean, anybody could have counted themselves out at any point during this run, but you kept it very tight the entire time. I was really, really impressed by the run from both of you guys, and I'm glad I got seeded into a group that was this strong.
Yeah, I hope I will win. We probably not win the next race. I don't know. I think it's sub 130 guy.
Yes, so you'll be up against DBZ Fan Kid Boo.
Oh yeah,
for your final race of the group. So this is going to be interesting because at this point, I'm pretty sure it's going to be down to the tiebreak if you do beat him between all 3 of you. So fastest average time is going to be a factor here. I'm thinking if you win that race, then you're probably going to have one of the faster times of the group doing so. Your race with me might put you behind there, though.
Yeah, we'll probably not win this race. Let's be honest, it's hard to get to 130 when you get that. It's pretty hard to not get it. So he probably beat me, but I don't really care. I'm fine. I get a sub 140. That's my goal.
And never count yourself out. I mean, you didn't in this race, and it was very close. So I really appreciate you putting on this race for us. This is a fantastic show.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the timer. My OBS studio doesn't like when my timer is not on top of everything. It's like, why you stop capturing it?
Well, on the bright side, we do have more official timing methods than that, so no worries.
Yeah.
You do have like 50 tabs open at all times, though, Skarsnik. That can't be good for you.
I have more than that, actually. There's only one window of Chrome. I have another one with more than that.
Well, I might want to dial back a little bit on that, but Skarsnik, just kind of tying things up. You got anything you want to share with the fans?
No, I don't know. I don't. I don't know what to say. It was really an amazing race. Yeah, I hope it was pretty close. I was catching a lot. After my days on Aghanim. So I was happy because I was like, oh, I will die somewhere else. I didn't die everywhere. Okay, it was a really nice race. So thanks for the host for the Speed Gaming channel.
Yep, I was about to echo the same sentiments. Thank you, everybody, for being involved in the restream. Shout outs to Feasel and everybody at the Speed Gaming staff. Want to thank our runners for putting on this great show. My name is Uday Mystic. I've been commentating for this match and for my own group, but it'll be exciting to see what happens between Chauncer, Skarsnik, and DBZ Fan Kid Boo. And I also want to thank the audience here for watching. Please give these runners a follow. There's going to have plenty more great Link to the Past content, and we have a lot more NMG still to go. Speaking of the NMG tournament, here on the schedule today, we're going to have Wolfie versus JSR on this channel after this race in about 15 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And then tomorrow we've got 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m., and 9 p.m., all Eastern Standard Time, of course. So we have a ton of races tomorrow as well. If you like A Link to the Past, Vanilla NMG, any percent, no save and quit, stay tuned, folks. There's a lot to see. Any final parting words, Skarsnik?
No, have a good. I will go to sleep now because it's 2 a.m. It's still
Yeah, it's got to be after midnight now in Europe. So thanks again for the
Yeah.
race, and from everybody here at Speed Gaming, thanks for the race. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and we'll catch you next time. See you next mission.
Okay, I'm going to bed. See you.